Hi, I'm Jody McInerney. I'm a graduate student at Boise State University, earning a certificate in games and simulations. And I'm here to present you some ideas about how to integrate game-based learning into your higher education course. The objectives of this presentation are for you to appreciate the benefits game-based activities can have for your students and your course, for you to be able to choose games that are aligned with the educational goals and purpose for learning, and that you have some options for game-based learning resources and templates to consider using when integrating game-based elements. So why use games? Normally in this point in the presentation, I would ask for your ideas using a word wall or some other kind of website. But for now, I'll give you some of my ideas. The big reason is because most college students now are digital natives. They've grown up playing video games and using technology. They're familiar with the three themes and the narratives and the types of gameplay. And a lot of them has spent many hours playing games with friends or individually for fun. So when they see a game-based activity, they tend to be more willing to engage in the activity, and they tend to be more motivated to spend more time with the content. The structure of the game provides them with supportive information, and it also helps them move forward at their own pace. Another benefit of using games is that students who enjoyed the games, are motivated by them, are more likely to persist in the course and in learning the content. So based on this infographic, 5 tips to implementing game-based learning in the classroom, which I'll give you a link to at the end of the presentation, I've come up with 3 steps for integrating a game into a lesson or a course. The first step is to decide the instructional purpose for using a game. So we're going to go over 3 different types or reasons for incorporating games, purposes for using games, and the types of games that are appropriate for those. And then the second step is to play the game yourself, try it out and see whether or not it suits your objectives and goals for learning, and whether it's appropriate for your students. And then the third step is to assess whether or not it's effective, if it improves your students' progress and performance. And we'll talk about some types of games that actually allow you to collect that sort of data. So the first step in incorporating game-based learning is deciding on the instructional purpose for including game-based activities. And one of those is enrichment. By providing your content in an alternate format, you encourage exploration, which is really motivating for adult learners. And one of the ways to do that is through interactive presentations. One of the common types of interactive presentations used in games are adventure scenarios. Let's look at an example of one of those. This is an adventure interactive presentation on cognitive bias, and they're using the contents of a monastery. And if you look, the learner clicks, and then it gives you the purpose of the presentation: to rid yourself of cognitive biases. There's humor in this. There's intrigue, because as you're stepping through, you're encountering characters and deciding when to move forward. So you get to move forward at your own pace, and it provides a context for learning the content. So if we move forward, we start to see some of the information and background knowledge that the learners should always have. So for example, it talks about the bystander effect, and there's a link. If a person not really sure what that is, they can click on and see a description of that in Wikipedia. And then they can move forward to the next step, and it actually gives them some graphs. So there's a variety of things that you can incorporate when you're creating a game, developing a game, but in the context of an adventure scenario that kind of motivates them to continue moving forward and spend more time reading and processing the information than they might otherwise. Another type of game-based enrichment activity is a branching scenario. And this is an activity where the learner clicks through a presentation or a website and makes choices. And based on their choices, they're taking to, and make their decision, they're taking to additional pathways. And so one way of using that is in an investigation. Also, these are used in case studies when you're trying to diagnose a particular illness, for example, in medical case studies. So how can you start using enrichment game-based learning activities? Well, one way is if you can use existing games off of game websites. The adventure scenario I showed you earlier is from Explorable Explanations. It's got a lot of terrific games geared towards adults there, and in the tools section, some that you can modify for your own use. A lot of those are simulations and math-based. Another way is to build your own. So this Quest app actually allows you to build text adventure games and interactive fiction. So there's no visuals, but it does provide a context for them to interact with texts that they're reading, and encourages them to really dig more deeply into it. Another way for you to implement game-based learning in your class is using presentation templates. So for example, you could take a template from the SlidesGo website. If you wanted to build like a case study with a branching scenario, you could use this this one, which has table of contents and a variety of other types of slides that have all the graphics already. And you could pair that with a branching choice template, which is one in which you basically can type in the information for their first option or scenario and their choices. And then when they, it actually has the slides interlinked. So when they make a choice, it takes them to another slide that gives them a scenario and some options. And so by pairing those kind of things, you can easily create your own activity. So another purpose for using game-based learning in instruction is for reinforcement. And this is something that more people are typically familiar with. There's a lot of games out there for drill and practice. There's some quizzes, game-based quizzes that you can find out there. One example of a website that has a lot of game-based assessments and drill and practice activities is Purpose Learning. And not only does it allow you to explore and use games, but you can also create different kinds of games. So anything from matching to an image quiz. You can also set up groups of students and hold game tournaments. So this is really a fun way to get students to engage in those kinds of activities. And one of the benefits of using these types of games for some students is they're competitive, is that they want to increase their score, they want to do better, and so they'll keep trying to get up on the leaderboard. If I was to pick a particular game, like this anatomy study quiz, for example, on, let's say, knowing the face muscles, you could scroll down and see, oh, here's a leaderboard, here's who's got the high score. If I do well enough, can I, get on this leaderboard? So like I said, a lot of options for this website. And so a great way to both find games that you can use and also go and create your own games. In addition to enrichment and reinforcement, game-based learning can be effective for knowing when to provide intervention for students. The game websites like the Purpose Learning one I just showed you provides you with a way to collect data on the performance of students on the different learning games. And that can allow you to highlight areas where many students are struggling or where specific students are having trouble, so you can provide them with some additional support. So in conclusion, one strategy for integrating game-based learning into your course is to find games that meet your instructional objectives, to play them to see if they're a good fit for your students and your learning goals, and then to collect data to see whether they are effective for the purpose that you set. And if you have trouble finding the specific games that fit what you need, then you can consider creating your own. So here are some additional links for you to explore further, and happy gaming.